So this is how it begins, not with a buzzer beater or a heated press conference, but with silence. Caitlin Clark didn't even lace up her sneakers in Chicago, yet somehow she walked into the Windy City and took over like a 5-star general arriving on foreign soil. No warm-up, no game time, just presence. And yet, that presence sent shockwaves through the league. The United Center transformed into a fever dream, literally. Fans flooded the concourse wearing Indiana Fever jerseys, holding homemade signs, and hoping for a single glimpse of the woman who's redefined what it means to be a superstar in the WNBA. You could feel it in the air. This wasn't a regular road game. This was a pilgrimage. They came from every corner of Chicago and beyond not to see a matchup, but to witness Caitlin Clark. She didn't need to score a point. She didn't even need to dribble. The second she appeared, the energy shifted. People craned their necks just to catch her walking through the tunnel. She signed autographs like a presidential candidate shaking hands on a campaign trail. Hundreds of them for nearly 20 minutes. And it wasn't just the kids. Grown adults were lining up, some teary-eyed, some in total disbelief. What's more stunning is that all of this unfolded in Angel Reese's backyard. The self-proclaimed queen of the Chi, the face of Reebok's latest hype fuel campaign, was nowhere to be found. The same woman who coined the phrase, "Come to your trap, take over your trap," suddenly vanished when it was her own trap being overrun. While Clark was outside the arena creating a feverish fan experience, Reese was allegedly sidelined by a suspiciously timed back injury. The irony? It wasn't just poetic, it was painful, because this wasn't just a takeover. This was a quiet humiliation. Caitlin Clark, sidelined and silent, stole an entire city's attention, not through arrogance or marketing, but through authenticity and connection. That's the kind of dominance you can't fake. You either have it or you don't. And on that day in Chicago, it became brutally obvious who did and who didn't. The city that was supposed to rally around Angel Reese fell head over heels for Caitlin Clark. And just like that, a storyline flipped. One star elevated without playing. The other disappeared under the weight of expectations she helped build. In every sense of the word, Clark didn't just take the spotlight. She was the spotlight. And Reese, she became the shadow. And what's worse for Angel Reese fans is that the symbolism ran deeper than the jersey colors. This wasn't just about one woman drawing a crowd. This was about the culture shift Clark has brought to the WNBA, a generational superstar whose charisma doesn't stop at the court. Her influence leaks into the streets, the sidewalks, the concourses. Meanwhile, Reese tried to own the narrative with flashy slogans and influencer energy. But when the lights came on in her own city, it was Caitlin who stood center stage. Remember that Reebok campaign? Come to your trap, take over your trap. The phrase that trended, that circulated across TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter like gospel? Well, it aged like spoiled milk, because Clark came to that trap and did exactly that, but not through aggression or ego, through grace, through connection, through an undeniable magnetism that neither injury nor rival could dim. The fans didn't care that she wasn't playing. They didn't care about the box score. They cared about being there, about saying, "I was there the day Caitlin Clark came to Chicago." Meanwhile, Angel Reese dropped cryptic social media posts and ducked questions. The comparison was brutal. One athlete was out front, present, engaged. The other felt like a ghost, haunting a storyline that used to belong to her. And let's be real, this wasn't even supposed to be Clark's moment. It was Barbie Night. Theme for Reese, branded for Reese, style for Reese. But the universe had other plans. It turned into a Caitlin Clark tribute night, unofficially, unintentionally, but undeniably. And the worst part? She didn't even try to make it that. The people chose her. The energy chose her. The moment chose her. In one of the cruelest twists of fate, Angel Reese didn't just lose a game she wasn't playing. She lost a city that was supposed to be hers. Because for all the branding, all the marketing, all the smoke and mirrors, when it came down to who people wanted to see, wanted to cheer, wanted to connect with, it wasn't even close. Chicago stood up and made their choice. And the choice was Caitlin Clark. But if you thought Clark's impact ended at the autograph line, think again. Because while she was captivating fans outside the court, her Indiana Fever teammates were sending a message inside the court. And that message was loud, clear, and vicious. We're more than just Caitlin. It started with Kelsey Mitchell, who looked like she was born in fire and raised in a gym. From the very first quarter, Mitchell was locked in, not just scoring, erupting. She drilled threes from so deep, it looked like she was trying to hit shots from Indiana. 7 of 10 from deep, 35 points. She didn't just torch Chicago, she incinerated them. Every shot was a dagger. Every movement screamed, "You better start putting respect on this name." The confidence oozed from her like lava. You could tell she wasn't just playing for stats. She was playing for validation, for that national respect that's been overshadowed by Clark's rise. And rather than resenting the spotlight on Caitlin, Mitchell grabbed the scraps of that spotlight and turned them into a flamethrower. It was personal. It was precise. It was a masterclass in basketball vengeance. She cut through Chicago's defense like a scalpel through butter. Screens? She danced around them. Doubles? She split them. Closeouts? Too late. This wasn't just good offense. It was surgical. It was a performance that declared, we're not just riding Caitlin's coattails. We're building something real here. And with every bucket, Mitchell etched her name deeper into the identity of this Fever team. And when you combine that with Aaliyah Boston's dominance in the paint, forget it. This wasn't a game. It was an execution. Boston delivered a double-double without a hint of flair, and that's what made it terrifying. She didn't need drama, just efficiency. She carved up Chicago's front court with footwork, timing, and raw power. She made all-star bigs look like G-League interns. Boston wasn't there for the highlight reel. She was there to crush, to own the paint, to send a message that you can't just worry about Clark and Mitchell. You got a storm forming underneath the rim too. Every rebound, every post move, every help rotation. It all screamed control. She didn't play loud. She played inevitable. That's what makes her dangerous. She doesn't demand your attention. She takes it quietly and leaves you wondering how you ever overlooked her. And let's not forget Ary McDonald, who wasn't even supposed to be in this narrative. She came off the bench like a bottle rocket, dropping 10 points and locking up anyone who dared to breathe on offense. Ary isn't a footnote. She's a punctuation mark. When Chicago dared to claw back, she was the one slamming the door shut. McDonald's rise proves this Fever team isn't a one-woman show. It's a movement. Every piece fits. Every player contributes. Even the role players feel like starters with the way they execute. This is no longer a young team searching for identity. This is a roster that has found itself, and it's terrifying what they're becoming. And Chicago looked like a team that didn't just lose, they quit. This wasn't a 93-78 loss. This was a soul-snatching, ego-destroying, culture-cracking implosion. Their fifth straight, at home, with their pride and brand supposedly on the line. And they played like ghosts. No fight, no unity, just chaos disguised as a roster. They were supposed to bounce back. Instead, they bounced out of rhythm, of effort, of relevance. Their stars didn't show up. Their coach looked like a passenger. Their defense looked like open season. This wasn't about losing to a better team. It was about being exposed by a better culture. The Fever were strategic, aggressive, and deadly. Their 24 assists on 34 made shots proved one thing. This team is connected. They play together. They trust each other. Chicago had just 16 assists. That's not basketball. That's survival. And when survival is your strategy against a team this organized, you're already dead. And here's the scariest part. Caitlin Clark didn't even play. The Fever did all of this without their franchise player. They destroyed a division rival without their face of the league. That's not just impressive. That's a warning. When Clark returns, how do you stop them? You can't just double her anymore. You've got to deal with the whole machine. This is what makes Indiana a nightmare matchup. This isn't just a team, they're a system of belief, execution, and fearlessness. And when you add Clark's gravity to that mix, it's over. She draws the eyes. Mitchell draws the blood. Boston seals the fate. And the rest? They run you into the ground while smiling. And that's what separates contenders from illusions. The Indiana Fever didn't stumble into this identity. They earned it brick by brick, possession by possession. While Chicago was trying to remember who they were, Indiana showed up already knowing, already committed, already unified. There were no questions in their huddles, no panic in their rotations, just cold execution. Every screen was set like it mattered. Every rotation snapped like a rubber band. This was a team playing with urgency, not desperation. You could see it in the details, in the way Michaela Timpson poked the ball loose to ignite a break, and how Lexi Hull stepped in for key minutes without missing a beat. This wasn't just depth, it was infrastructure. It was the kind of system where everyone knows their role, plays their role, and elevates the entire collective because of it. These weren't bench warmers. They were culture carriers. And in the postseason, that's what wins games. Contrast that with Chicago's bench, which looked more like a waiting room than a support system. The rotations were confused. The communication was non-existent. Players looked to the sidelines for answers that never came. It was a breakdown in trust, in preparation, in belief. And it played out possession after possession, like watching a dam burst one crack at a time until a flood couldn't be stopped. The turnovers told the story. 17 of them. That's not just sloppy basketball. That's psychological surrender. Every mishandle, every forced pass, every shot clock violation was a symptom of a team that had already lost a mental battle before the ball even tipped. They weren't just outplayed, they were dismantled. And the Fever didn't gloat. They didn't dance on graves. They just executed like a team with something bigger in mind. Because Indiana isn't chasing highlight reels. They're chasing legacy. Every game, every quarter, every possession is part of a larger arc. And this game was a key chapter. They didn't just beat Chicago. They sent a message to the entire league. We can win with or without Caitlin Clark. We can dominate without our biggest weapon. And when she does return, you better pray we're merciful. And what does that mean for the so-called rivalry between Clark and Reese? It means the curtain's closed. It means the fantasy is over. Because this was never a rivalry built on performance. It was built on marketing, on storyline, on surface tension. But strip all that away, and what do you have? One player building a legacy and elevating a franchise, and another still try to find footing beneath a collapsing brand. It's not personal, it's structural. Reese isn't the villain. She's just a star that hasn't learned how to shine without forcing the spotlight. And Clark? She doesn't chase it. She becomes it. Her stardom is gravitational. It pulls everything around her into orbit. Fans, media, teammates, cities. The numbers are just confirmation. The impact is the proof. There were no chants for Reese in her city. No jersey lines wrapping around the building. No roars for her name echoing through the concrete. But for Clark, there was noise, even in stillness, even in injury, even in silence. That's not hype. That's reverence. And that's the chasm between the two, one measured in marketing, the other in moments. What we're witnessing isn't just a shift in WNBA culture. It's a full-blown renaissance. Caitlin Clark isn't just elevating her team. She's redefining the league. She's showing that greatness isn't about theatrics or followers. It's about consistency, humility, and presence. The kind of presence that can take over an entire city without ever taking a shot. And if that doesn't make her the face of the league, then tell me, what does? Because this isn't about who talks the loudest or posts the most. It's about who shows up. And even when Caitlin Clark doesn't suit up, she still shows up. For the fans, for her team, for the moment. That's leadership. That's legacy. That's real. The truth is, Angel Reese isn't Caitlin Clark. And she doesn't need to be. But she does need to stop hitching her narrative to someone else's orbit. Because every time Clark steps onto a court, or even into a city, she exposes a gap. And the more Reese tries to close it by association, the wider it gets. Meanwhile, the Fever are building something terrifying. They aren't just riding Clark's wave. They're creating their own storm. And when she rejoins that system, it'll be a Category 5 reckoning. No more leaning on one star. No more collapsing when the face of the franchise sits. Because now, Indiana knows exactly who they are, with or without her. This isn't a team hoping for a future. This is the future. And it's not coming quietly. It's arriving with blowouts, with message wins, with cities turned upside down. What happened in Chicago wasn't a coincidence. It was a coronation. And not just for Caitlin Clark, but for the Fever as a whole. So to the rest of the league, prepare yourselves, because when the franchise player returns, and she will, she's not walking into a project. She's walking into a powerhouse. one that already proved it doesn't need her to survive, but becomes unstoppable when she's back. And to Angel Reese, you had your moment, you had your trap. But now, the trap belongs to someone else. And you're not just watching from the sidelines, you're watching from the shadows. The rivalry is over, the crown is claimed, and the throne is not up for debate. It's already got a name engraved on it. Caitlin Clark. The fake rivalry between Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, it's over. If it ever existed at all, this wasn't a rivalry. This was a delusion, a marketing pitch. Because in reality, Clark isn't competing with Reese. She's operating on a different planet. One draws hashtags, the other draws history. You can't fake this kind of greatness. You can't brand your way into generational impact. You have to earn it. And Clark has earned it, not just with points, but with presence, with influence, with the kind of cultural takeover that leaves no doubt. She walked into Chicago, waved at the skyline, and the skyline waved back. And as for Angel Reese, it's time to stop chasing a shadow that's sprinting away faster than you can tweet. This isn't personal. It's physics. Some stars rise. Some stars orbit others. Caitlin Clark? She's not part of the WNBA universe. She's becoming the sun. And that sun just rose over Chicago, casting long shadows where once there were crowns. The city has chosen. The fans have spoken. The fever have arrived. And the trap? It's not yours anymore. It belongs to Caitlin Clark.